which means fucking nothing. I bought TurboTax because it was on sale. That's a pretty white thing to do.
Thank you, Mr. Fuentes.
That's a pretty suburban white thing to do. Well, I got a great deal on the. I feel like that commercial where the guy tries not to turn you. We're trying not to turn to your parents or whatever. Ready and raring to go.
By the way, I just shaved 20 minutes ago. How's it look?
I don't know, dude. Your testosterone is off the hook. Clearly.
Okay. Here we go. Okay, it's the Brad and Britt cast. First one post Thanksgiving here, and we're glad you've joined us. We're live in the 1:30 Eastern hour on a Monday. Sorry.
Hey, we're going to have to flip our calendars here in a couple of days. Don't forget to
coming
flip
up.
Yeah,
absolutely. We spent about 30 years in the land of cliches, didn't we?
I don't know. Give yourself a little extra time as you're going to work this morning.
Yeah.
That was always my favorite.
Yesterday when it was raining, I made sure I took my umbrella with me.
Yeah, good. I want to take your umbrella.
Let's talk about our old friend Jerry V, who died over the weekend. Jerry Valancourt, for radio geeks and Charlotte folks and sports fans across the country. He had a name, deservedly so. We worked with him in Charlotte 20 years ago. He was at that time broadcasting for the Charlotte Hornets. He went with the Hornets down to New Orleans when they became the New Orleans Hornets. They should have been the Jazz there, but the Jazz already had moved off to Utah. It's too stupid to talk about, but
yeah, somehow you can work out the trade.
Yeah, Jerry he really was a good guy, and it just makes you sad a little bit, the people you work with. He's a couple years older than me, but we lost him, and I texted Britt when I found this out over the weekend that Jerry had passed, because Jerry was on after me. Britt was not working at WBT at the time, but we used Britt frequently as a character voice, and his most famous character voice with us in those days is now a name that is so far into the past for many people, you almost can't do it anymore, right?
Correct.
Bob Hope.
Hope.
Sounds ridiculous that there are a lot of people that don't know who Bob Hope is, but I guarantee you, Bob Hope is one of those pictures. If they put it up on Jeopardy, depending on the age of the contestants, they would not know who Bob Hope was.
Yeah.
Arguably the most famous comedian of the 20th century, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Anyway, so Britt had the greatest Bob Hope imitation, now completely useless, that we would use on our program. And one day, late in the afternoon, we assembled, there must have been 7 people in our studio at the same time. And I was the host of The Match Game.
Yeah.
Brad Rayburn, I was your host.
Match the Stars. And Britt, as Bob Hope, was the last contestant to give an answer. And in classic style here, I can't remember anything about the question. All I remember is that the answers that were given got progressively more bizarre. And by the time we got to Bob Hope, his answer just, and this was on the phone. You weren't even in the studio with us. You were on the phone, but it didn't matter. By the time we got to Bob Hope,
the ceiling practically fell in.
Oh, it was
There
over.
was so much laughter.
There was pandemonium.
Yeah. People pounding the floor.
It was. There were
People
tears.
throwing things at each other. It was so incredibly stupid. I wish we had a recording of that, but we don't.
No.
And that's okay. So that's my version of this. What's yours, Britt?
Again, on the original match game, what you would give was a definitive answer. Somebody would say, "This is the definitive answer," and it would always be pretty good. And
the most standard answer, standard answer to a question. Yeah.
The one that always came up for me was when Jerry V. The answer to the question was Lynn Wheeler's toe cheese. She was a Charlotte politician that you guys would have on, and she was a fairly glib person, and she was well known, and she was a very self-publicizing kind of person. And that to me was like, if you couldn't think of anything else and you just pulled one out of your ass, you would just say Lynn Wheeler's toe cheese.
It's still funny.
It's still great. Yogi was at the picnic and he said blank to Boo Boo. And then you just wah, 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 and then you just go Lynn Wheeler's toe cheese, and that would just you could just bring down the house with that. That was the Jerry V answer to me. That was always the absolute best. Good times.
Bob Hope.
The great Bob Hope snafu was that you were doing an American Idol situation, and Bob for some reason had not gotten the memo that the person that was singing was like a 14-year-old girl, and Bob made some rather inappropriate remark about how does she look or something like that, and somebody said, "Oh, Bob, it's like a teenage girl," and Bob Hope replied with, "I believe I can fly. I believe I can touch the sky." And this was right at the beginning of the R. Kelly shit. So Bob was able to get out.
That turned out not to be true, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that was one. That's how Bob got out of. Was able to diffuse that particular situation and didn't look like a complete and total pedophile.
Yeah, Jerry was a great sport and just a fun guy to work with. He will be missed, as they like to say, and we
yes, he will.
say that.
Great, a lot of people with a lot of great Jerry V stories.
Yeah. All right, here are your choices off the list. My dinner with Andre, Adolf, and Donnie. Don's slow boat to China leaves from the port of Phoenix. Ohio State Buckeyes punished for Ohio State political stupidity.
Wow.
And word of the year.
We really do need to get into the racist dinner with Andre, because this has been I don't even know who this Fuentes guy is, but this thing has really blown up over the past 72 to 96 hours. It sure has. So Trump, this must have been Friday or Saturday, invites Kanye West to Mar-a-Lago. Donald Trump's free to have dinner with anybody that he wants. Donald Trump is free to have dinner with the most prominent public anti-Semite of the moment if he wants. Kanye West, mental problems notwithstanding, decides that he could bring with him a couple of friends. One of those friends is a guy named Nick Fuentes, who in right-wing white nationalist Nazi circles is a big, big hero. I think he's about 24 or 25 years old. At that age, you already know what you need to know about these kind of things. And Trump is basically trafficking and consorting with Nazis. What else can you say? Mm-hmm. So you've got Kanye West, you've got Fuentes, and the third person there is a woman who Trump claims he didn't remember, but it turns out she was like the head of the Florida Republican campaign for him in 2016. He knew her. So he's already lying from the get-go on this. And I think it's fair for those of us who were never Trumpers to begin with and saw through what he was, and always will be. I don't care if Donald Trump denounces this now. That's bullshit. Do we care about that? No, because that's what he is. There's no denouncing this, and he wouldn't anyway. And there's no, why don't other Republicans distance themselves from this? Why don't they speak out again? We're done with that. This is what they've signed on to. And you know what, Britt? I was thinking of this before we started. This is actually a good thing in that it's further clarification. It's further reinforcement of the fact that anyone that thinks for 1 second that they've, quote, moved beyond Trump, or some of the headlines over the weekend were hilarious. Republicans denounced Trump, and it's the I'm disturbed about this, or these third person people shouldn't be having dinner with people like that kind of non-specific naming of Trump disapproval statements from in other words, they're all still afraid of him. Nothing has changed. Any hype, any strength, any poll results that have been favorable to Ron DeSantis or, Richard Nixon or anybody, they mean nothing because they are all still afraid of Donald Trump. They're all afraid of him. And I'm kind of glad that we had this little time together to be able to make sure that even for 1 second, if you thought that anything had changed, no, it has not. No, it has not. And Trump is as horrible as ever. He has, in effect, said, I have to do this, and Republicans go along with it because this is the base of Republican support right now in elections. This should translate into a nice, decisive victory for Raphael Warnock in Georgia, where they had early voting just get underway. And did you see the decision by the courts? The Republicans tried to stop early voting on Saturday because you know what they do in Georgia? They pass all these specific idiotic limits on when you can early vote. Like, I think they really had a law. No voting allowed early the weekend of Thanksgiving. Things like that. And the courts said, no, I'm sorry. No.
You can vote on Saturday.
You can vote on Saturday. It's okay. It's all right. So even in Georgia.
The guy who is running for the Senate as the Republican nominee in Georgia, who is black, has said nothing about Donald Trump having dinner with an unapologetic, unrequited, unmitigated white supremacist. Herschel Walker himself, who, once again, is black, has not had a comment about Donald Trump.
Do you care? I don't care.
Well, it should be said.
Britt, that's a cycle that means nothing. By the way, it never did mean anything.
This Herschel Walker fairy tale doesn't exist without Donald John Trump, without him blessing him and making it happen. Now, there were a lot of other fathers here. The Republican Party moving him from Texas to Georgia, setting him up and all this other shit. But this thing doesn't happen without Donald Trump blessing Herschel Walker. Herschel Walker should be able to look at that fairly clearly and go, that's not good. I don't think that should have happened. I think Trump was wrong to do that. I don't think that's a close call, is it?
Wait a minute. No. What planet are you on, though, thinking that would ever happen?
Well, I'm a planet where sensibility and reason rule. That's the planet that I'm on.
People with IQs several points higher than Herschel Walker don't say that. People in positions of responsibility in the Republican Party don't say that. So this idea that because Herschel Walker's involved in an election in a few days, that he's going to stand up and run away from Trump right now, the price for that as you know, would be greater
Hmm.
than saying the right thing, in our view, which is never going to happen. So it's not worth wasting your breath on. It just isn't.
At some point, though, even the most novice political actor would realize that hanging on to Donald Trump is a liability. And even the people around, and I don't expect Herschel Walker to know this, but the people that tell him what to say, they would at least say, you probably should, in the mildest way possible, rebuke Donald Trump.
I just couldn't disagree more to even countenance the idea that there are, quote, people telling Herschel Walker what to do who could, should, and might tell him that at the 11th hour, at 2 minutes before midnight, before the election, when the only thing he had going for him was the racist endorsement of a guy who said, I'm going to find the most famous black guy in Georgia to run against Raphael Warnock, because in my racist view, I'm speaking as Trump, all black people really are the same. There's not much difference in them. They're all the same color. So I can find the dumbest one possible. But if I can find the most famous one possible in Georgia, that's a winning ticket, because that's how I got elected president. I was the most famous guy, and I won the primary in 2016, and I became the president just by having name recognition so far off the and that's so any idea, any thought that there would be any reason or have you no sense of decency, sir, moment at this hour is disabuse yourself of that. Just don't even think of it.
There's been no real good response from Team Trump about this. I mean, I think they tried I don't even know who this person, I don't even know who this person is. I've never even met Nick Fuentes. And then there's been no real counter to, I don't know, is he really a white supremacist? And then you just very clearly look at the stuff that he said and written, and it's like, oh yeah, that's not even on the line. That's beyond the pale. The guy is unapologetically, it's a brand.
Britt, are you saying you want to hear some of Nick Fuentes, this brilliant man?
Give us an idea, because I don't believe you in the liberal media who just put that very scary moniker, white supremacist, on everything.
I think we got this one here. Let's see.
Yeah.
So you're either a Catholic or you're a Jew. You're either a Catholic or you're with the Jews. That's how it is. That's the way the world is. So anyway, that's that. And when are Catholics going to start asserting their control?
Yeah.
I want Catholics to run this country, not Jews. I want this country to be run by Catholics, not Jews. And I don't think that's controversial. I want this country to have Catholic media, Catholic Hollywood, Catholic government. I want this to be a Catholic occupied government, not a...
Hey, good news. You already got a Catholic Supreme Court on your way.
Jewish occupied government. That's not controversial for us. It may be controversial for you. It's not controversial for us. We're Christians. You're not. It's not they could say it's eyebrow raising for who? These people with the fucking cubes on their head with the fucking linen line wrapped around the city. Maybe. Who cares about them and their eyebrows and their freaking descriptions of movies? It's not controversial for us. We're Christians. You know what's eyebrow raising for us? Wearing a cube on your head. That's eyebrow raising. I make that when I
He's referring to what is called tefillin. It's what Orthodox Jews wear when you see them praying in temple.
A cube.
Yeah. And they're not, by the way, it's not a cube. Jesus Christ.
see some guy with a freaking thing wrapped around his head and a little hat under a big hat. I'm like, what?
I'm done with that.
No, that sounds pretty unapologetically ignorant and hate-filled. Oh, by the way,
Britt, are there any symbols of Christianity or Catholicism that would be open to?
Yeah, I think the
Pope, if looked at in isolation.
I think the Pope kind of wears a baseball cap. Doesn't the Pope wear like a baseball cap or something, like a Yankees hat most of the time? Oh, by the way, Disney stock down 30% over new Catholic CEO taking place. He being appointed. So I don't know what's happening in America right now.
You're wrong. Iger's a Jew.
Oh, sorry. No, they got rid of him.
By the way, the guy he replaced, Chapek, Jew. So.
That is so. You know what? You know who really should be denouncing that, and they're not. Is like you should have Christian leaders going, "Oh, he's saying we Christians are for that. Fuck you." No, we're not. That's bullshit. Whatever came out of that idiot's mouth is bullshit. Cubes
There
on
should be a
heads.
Christian boycott of Disney overall, right?
Jesus. Yeah, they don't have a good comeback as far as this whole thing goes. And I think, are they even trying the what about game with Obama and like Reverend Wright or something like that? Are they trying to go all the way back for that? There's just nothing there.
You can't do it.
So
you can't do it.
There's
nothing there. There's nothing there.
Ever since the election happened and ever since Trump announced that he's running for president in 2024, it's been shit show after shit show. They had the whole hee-haw gang out there saying that they were going to take Hunter Biden's laptop and shove it up his ass. Kevin McCarthy cannot get the votes that he needs to be the speaker. This thing happens at Mar-a-Lago, and they've got no good answer for it. But, you know, if Nancy Pelosi drops a toothpick, oh, Democrats in disarray. Look at the Democratic Party dying. The Republicans are, it's an unmitigated shit show. They're running around and they can't do anything.
You know, well, that, again, there's another narrative that is clearly buried. The Democrats set themselves up with leadership going forward. No controversy, no muss, no fuss likely here. And the Republicans are, you know, they're like, you know, 7-year-olds at recess. We're gonna play a game, and they're all still running around. So
he's blowing everybody he can to try to get the votes, and he doesn't have the votes, and he can't, and he's trying to herd the cats. But oh my God, the Democrats are in disarray. Oh my God, the Democrat, you know, it's just the stupidest shit possible. But this is the kind of there's nothing going on in Trump world other than he's trying to bilk a lot more people out of a lot more money for these campaign contributions. I got the text today, by the way, Trump Christmas ornaments, a huge Cyber Monday sale. That's happening.
Are you joking or are you telling the truth?
That's a real thing. I got it I can show you the text if you need to see it. They've got a big,
I want to see this. I'm not on the list.
Oh, I may have actually deleted that one. But anyway, oh no, wait a minute. Hang on. There we
go. You can go to your trash.
There it is right there. Trump Cyber Monday sale.
Monday sale. Take 30% off Trump Save America Christmas ornaments. Get yours while supplies last. Yeah, they've only made a certain number of them, so you want to grab them while they're
yeah, because it's no good.
Wow.
And then apparently Kanye is also very upset at Trump for some. Doesn't all of this just remind America, like, what the Republican narrative is? This is the Republican narrative. You didn't like Trump. He was kind of an asshole. But man, those gas prices were cheap. You could afford groceries and the economy was rocking, right? Isn't that essentially the Republican narrative? Just swallow the difficult pill and let daddy back in the White House, and you can have $1.99 bread again.
It's still the socialist liberal policies that are destroying this country. It doesn't matter who's next to the letter R. You must vote for them. They're sticking with that as much as they can, but it's law of diminishing returns. It seems to work less and less and less. Let's do word of the year.
Yeah, word of the year.
I love word of the year. Word of the year is gaslighting. Now, I don't mean to be that judgmental against the Merriam-Webster dictionary people who supposedly are the ones who come up with this. But they're many years too late on that one, don't you think?
Yeah, that's a little bit too late on that one, but that's fine.
People have been talking about the Republican Party and Trump gaslighting his supporters since minute one. And, you know, the official definition of gaslighting is where you convince the person who knows a fact or something that is real that they are wrong about that and that they are crazy for even thinking about that. And of course, it comes from the famous movie. Was it from 1938? It was a play, Gaslight.
Yes.
And then it became a movie that won a lot of awards. I think Ingrid Bergman was in that.
Correct. It is 1944. Ingrid Bergman as Paula Alquist, Charles Boyer as Gregory Anton.
Boyer.
Boyer, same guy.
Yeah.
I don't like that French stuff.
The plot involves a husband who tries to make his wife believe she is going insane by telling her that the gas lights in the house are not dimming, even though they are. How innocent that is compared to, and the ultimate expression of that by Trump was very early in his campaign and early in his presidency when he said flat out, you cannot believe what your eyes see and you cannot believe what your ears hear except from me. Britt, if that isn't gaslighting to the ultimate, I don't know what is. So it's kind of pathetic that the Merriam-Webster dictionary folks, and maybe that company has been gutted as much as every other print medium and newspaper has been. They're down to like 2 people, and they're both 97 years old and aren't quite hip with what's going on anymore, and they just discovered the word this year.
But I think that was the point that I was getting to a little while ago, as far as Trump with what you think you saw, you did not see, not see.
Yeah, I see it.
You see what I did?
How does Donald Trump tie his shoes in Little Nazis?
The point of all of this shit that's been going on for anybody that kind of pays attention to the news, and a lot of people don't because they've been doing Thanksgiving stuff and all that stuff. For that narrative that the Republicans have been putting out there that, God, if you just put this guy back in the White House, your bread's going to be back to $1.99. Your gas is going to be $2.25. And then everybody else is kind of reminded of all of this is the bullshit that came along with this guy. And the stuff that they're telling us about how great it was in America when he was president really wasn't all that great. So I don't think I'm going to go back for another serving of shit pie. I think I've had enough of the shit pie. I'd like to move on to another dessert. Thank you very much.
I think that you're actually going further than the Republican Party does in trying to describe what the world would be like if they had been or would be in charge right now. Because they don't actually go so far as to say, if we were in charge, gas would be $1.70 and Britt. They just stop at Joe Biden and the Democrats hate you so much that they want to destroy you by raising prices and causing inflation and wrecking your family. But they don't even go so far as to say, we would have prevented it or we can fix it. They don't need to do that because it's just implicit. So, and of course they can't say that. They don't have a plan, and no one can have it's not possible to reverse inflation through some legislative act, switching parties or anything of that. It just doesn't work that way. That's not how our economy works. And here's the point here. And one of the choices I said was Don Slowboat to China leaves from the port of Phoenix because he's all in right now with Kari Lake, the loser in the Arizona governor's contest. And he is essentially thrown in the towel completely on democracy. He's just done with it. It's just over. And he has declared, Don Trump, that Kari Lake should be, quote, installed, that's his word, as Arizona's governor. And I bring it up because at this moment, and we have this come up every couple of decades, it seems. It's certainly true with China, where the folks can't take it there anymore, and for good reason, because President Xi has fucked up on handling COVID. And by the way, not as bad as Dr. Fauci, okay? Not that bad.
Well, that's the narrative, though. The narrative is that Republicans.
I know.
Yeah, that's what they say.
Well, but no. And he's so stubborn. And because he is, quote, president for life, by the way, when that was official last month, when that designation, Donald Trump, again, showed his thrill at that particular thing where President Xi, strong leader. This guy's got the gig forever. He doesn't have to worry about re-election. It's funny. Here it is a month later, and in a country that is, I guess, number one in the world in suppression of free thought and dissent, they've got a little problem. And the problem is about 1,300,000,000 people. Yeah, it's one thing when you're, say, in a place like Cuba. It's an island. What does Cuba have? 15 million people. Everybody's confined, and you can have a secret police, and they can just crap and shit and beat the hell out of people. It's horrible. But China, if enough people protest, what are you going to do? Are you going to kill 50 million people in the streets? It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And because of his approach to COVID, which, remember at the beginning, it was China. They're doing unbelievable. They shut down a couple of their cities, and now they have none. It's great. They've handled it. And of course, that was a lie all the way through. And she has stuck to this zero COVID policy, which, as you and I know, that's an impossible goal. It doesn't exist in the world. You don't stamp out an endemic virus and disease like this. We still have about 300 people a day dying. 90% of them are over the age of 65. It's terrible. But largely, Americans are back to normal life. And our economy has done, again, I know you wouldn't know this by listening to Fox News or listening to Republicans, compared to much of the world, pretty good. And so China is up a creek. They've refused the good vaccines that we've used here in the United States and in North America and in Europe and most of the developed world to get control of this. They've refused Pfizer and Moderna vaccines. They've used the Chinese vaccine because of arrogance, national pride. Oh, we can develop our own. And apparently that vaccine sucks. It doesn't get it done. So now President Xi either has to eat his own words, admit he was wrong. The zero COVID policy is a failure. But he can't do that because when you're omnipotent and president for life, you never make mistakes. So as clumsy a response as folks think occurred here in the United States in many areas, it's pretty good compared to China. And now it's blowing up over there. It's blowed up, as they like to say.
What you just said was a completely accurate portrayal of what's going on in China. But you know how that's being portrayed to the average Fox News viewer is that they are railing against the kind of government lockdowns that Joe Biden put on America. That's what it's being portrayed. You know, that's what they're telling them. That's what some fucking asshole on talk radio is saying right now. That's what they're saying on Fox News. And that's the narrative that's being fed to those people is that, yep, the people around here are going to get sick of this shit. The next time that Joe Biden tries to crack down on something like that, we're going to rise up just like those people in China. That's what they're being told. That is the narrative that's being fed to these people.
Right. It's very important that you argue against something that really never happened.
Correct.
Never was intended to happen. In other words, there was never a zero COVID policy anywhere in this country that I know of, ever, by anybody.
No.
By the toughest governor, maybe California. That was never the goal. The goal was to get it manageable, and with the help of the vaccine and then the development of the drugs following that you had a really good chance of survival if you caught it, and your chances of survival really increased if you were vaccinated, that you wouldn't be nearly as sick. And it's largely worked overall. We're almost 3 years into this. But an authoritarian country like China has, well, they've proven that they can't handle it. Let's put it this way. If it's really the China virus and they were unleashing it on the world, I would say this could be the biggest backfire in the history of backfires. What do you say?
Yeah, it doesn't fit. But there again, the narrative that's been fed to the Republicans, to the Republican voters, is that Joe Biden and Anthony Fauci and people like Roy Cooper here in North Carolina, they shut down their economy, our economy, needlessly, just for government control's sake. That's what they did, and they don't care about commerce, and they don't care about
say
business.
that, but everybody who's alive now knows the truth, because remember, at the beginning of it was these controls are never coming off.
But
this is forever.
Now
Remember
you have anti-lockdown Jesus, and his name is Ron DeSantis, and he can counter everything now. We kept the schools open in Florida. We kept our businesses and restaurants open in Florida. And God damn it, you don't have to do what these authoritarian, communist, socialist jerks like Joe Biden did. And if you don't think they're going to ride that like Zorro, that's exactly what DeSantis is going to do.
Well, look, you can have a reasonable argument that there was some midpoint between free-for-all Florida and intelligent measures that were taken in other states to protect kids through school closures, which in some places really were handled badly. There's no argument there. But I just love the description of Ron DeSantis as, ready, George Wallace with a Harvard degree.
Speaking of George Wallace and things that are racist, how about that picture of Dallas Cowboys owner Jerry Jones that leaked right around Thanksgiving, Brad? Did you happen to see that?
Sure.
1957, as some black kids are trying to arrogantly go to public school in Little Rock, there was Jerry Jones just hanging out, I think as a 14-year-old young man, and there he is. Can't really see anything from the photo as far as him spitting or yelling at the people who are, again, arrogantly trying to go to school to do things like read, write, and add. Jerry Jones says, things were kind of boring. We didn't have cable to the internet back in 1957 in Little Rock. I just went down there to see what's happening. Brad, what did you think of that explanation from Cowboys billionaire Jerry Jones?
Well, clearly, there's no way out of this. No, there's no way out of this, because it really was possible to be white and on the right side of history in Alabama. You did not have to be standing literally or figuratively in front of the schoolhouse door to protect your life or what you thought was your way of life from black people. And at 14, I hold you accountable. I do.
It's fair.
I do. And Jerry Jones's explanation stinks, and here's why. This is the moment where you would apologize. You would say, I was 14, I was stupid, but I should have known better, and I apologize. And I've spent the rest of my life, and I hope that people that I've employed, not just in the football business, but he did other things before he bought the Cowboys, would tell you that, that's not the person that I became. And I just apologize for that moment. I don't think it ever hurts to do that. It just doesn't. It just makes you a bigger man. And I didn't hear that out of Jerry Jones.
No,
am I wrong or am I right?
Here's my take. You cannot point to anything in Jerry, and I'm being exceedingly fair. You can't point to anything in his public life that would show you that he's a racist or he judged people by race.
Right.
Not in the companies that he's run, not anything he's done with the Cowboys. Right. You can't point to anything. But you also can't tell me as an unaccompanied 14-year-old in 1957 that you went down there for anything but no good. I'm sorry. You were not going down there to see what's going. You were going down there to cause trouble and to be part of the problem. As a white kid, 14 years old, you weren't just going down there because you were bored and you'd read all of your comic books. I don't buy it for 1 second. But yes, I give him the benefit of the doubt in his public life. And yes, what you said that he could have made a statement on would have made a lot more sense than, I was bored.
And by the way, if he would just have made a statement like that in service to the fact that he does have a business right now where the primary pool of employees is about 80% black.
Yeah.
It would be helpful if I'm Zeke Elliott or Dak Prescott, the running back and quarterback of the Cowboys, 2 stars of the team. I would really look forward to having him say that. They're not going to run up to him right now and say anything untoward. They're not going to do that. But it was up to Jones to make the move. And I think he kind of tried to just skate past it. And in the world of Donald Trump, Britt, should we expect anything more?
No. And I also feel like this has the feeling of, and I'm not making any excuses for Jerry Jones, but this kind of feels like a Daniel Snyder, like, oh, this is one of my parting gifts to you. You're seeing some of these guys now, these owners, you're seeing some food fights among them because Daniel Snyder is pissed off because he's being made to leave town and he's going to try to poop in everybody's pool on the way out. It kind of feels like, well, I got some stuff. I'll just kind of leak it. That's what it feels like to me. Not that it's not legitimate, not that people don't have a right to examine that, but that's what this kind of feels like to me.
Are you saying that another owner outed that picture?
Yeah, he had the picture. I mean, I feel like that's what happened.
I thought that was found by Sports Illustrated.
Well, how did they get it though? And again, it comes out on Thanksgiving Day when the Cowboys obviously played. Now they still had, wasn't it the highest rated like Thanksgiving Day game of all time? I mean, it didn't hurt anything, but
I'm in a little dispute over that one. I'm in a little dispute over the bragging about the ratings on my Facebook page. I'm in a full smackdown with Bob Buckley.
Oh, really?
Who's just basically a troll dick on my Facebook page.
And he does have kind of a dog in the fight, since I believe the game was on his the affiliate of the network.
Oh, right? you just took the false premise that he did.
Oh, really?
Okay. Because this is not about Fox News. It's not about the Fox network. It has nothing. This is all about the NFL bragging.
Ah, yes.
It is irrelevant. And unless I can't read, which apparently I may not be able to, they're bragging that they had about 500,000 more viewers than they've ever had on Thanksgiving Day going back to 1992. And in 1992, the U.S. population was 249 million. Mm-hmm. It's now 340 million. So if you increase your total viewership by 500,000, but there were an extra almost 100 million people in the country, you tell me, is that a real increase? No, that's inflation, non-adjusted bullshit to brag that you got a few more people into the room. Is the NFL still the biggest thing on TV? Yes.
Yeah.
Does the NFL have to brag about it and then just gild the lily like that? No, they don't need to do that. And by the way, the methodology to get to a slightly higher number this year than 30 years ago, they now do count out of home viewing. So apples to apples, I would submit to you many years ago, by the way, when there were a lot fewer choices on television to watch, that this is like the old Gone with the Wind versus Titanic, right?
Yeah,
Remember that? That was, Titanic's the biggest movie ever. It sold more, $2 billion. And of course, it shouldn't have been about that. It was about how many tickets were sold, because, the population of the United States in 1939 was probably 110 million. You get the point. So I brought that up on Facebook, and my friend Bob Buckley decided to say, or it's because it was on Fox, and we know what you think of Fox. It had nothing to do with fucking Fox. The whole headline was about NFL brags that it has nothing to do. I don't give a shit that it was on Fox. Okay. And then he goes, and we know what you think of Fox News, Brad. Well, yeah. What the hell does that have to do with how many people were watching football on Thanksgiving? It's a huge event. We know a lot of people watch it. So what?
Do the Ohio State story? Because I know it hurts your heart to even say the Ohio State University today.
I said this before the game. Is that if they lose, it's going to be God's punishment for pushing J.D. Vance on America. The whole state of Ohio is going to get punished because, I half joked that I was wavering. Maybe it's time to go Michigan because, Michigan really is go blue. They went blue all the way. They have the triple up there in Michigan now. A state senate, a state house, and the governorship in a year that didn't happen everywhere. It didn't happen very many places at all. And Ohio has just gone completely down the toilet.
Yep.
Just down the toilet and has turned into not a purple state anymore, but right now it's a sadly red state. And guess who is up for election in 2024? The Democratic Senator Sherrod Brown.
Yeah.
What are the chances that he's going to be able to hold on this time around? I don't know. It could be difficult. And then Ohio will go from what it was to having 2 super hack Republican senators.
So I shudder to think what North Carolina's punishment is going to be for Ted Budd. You already saw the Tar Heel basketball team lose twice. You saw the football team lose the day after. Of course, they lost to NC State, but I guess the North Carolina football team is in for an ass pounding on Saturday when they take on Clemson in the ACC championship.
Yeah, I did see Ted Budd on one of the Sunday shows yesterday. It was probably the Fox one.
Was he saying something like, duh? Was it like that?
Oh no, he is ready to roll up his sleeves and get up to Washington and start investigating all the things that the socialist Biden administration has pushed on America, and we've got to get to the bottom of a lot of these issues.
Is he going to cut through the red tape and let the American economic engine roar? Is he going to do that, Brad?
Yeah. And then the questioner brought up gun rules, gun laws.
Yeah.
Of course, they don't bring up the fact that, by the way, Senator, your family owns a gun store. And of course, Ted Budd goes into his standards. The Second Amendment is sacred, and I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that America.
Well, that's it for us. It's great to be back. Starts off a fantastic week, and we will try to solve all the problems of America yet again tomorrow.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
See you then as we make our way through those leftovers.